You practice a passage and keep making the same mistake, doing everything you can to fix it, but you're not really making any progress. Then you may be overlooking a widely underestimated feature of music. A simple general rule can help you remove invisible physiological and cognitive obstacles on any instrument and at any technical level. It also prevents you from developing serious health problems sooner or later due to incorrect practice. The simple strategy we present at the end of this video can remove almost all the hurdles you repeatedly face. But first, you need to understand a characteristic of music that most people completely overlook. It has to do with misconceptions about what is easy and what is difficult in music. To give you an idea of what this is about, consider whether you are one of those who believe that a simple monophonic melody is an easy thing. With 2 or 3 notes, you might think that only a few motifs can be formed, and then the material is exhausted. And the technical mastery of such simple challenges is not worth mentioning, which is why you tend to play them without thinking. But wait, why is it that after just a few notes you can recognize a distinctive melody from among millions of others? Put it to the test. Oh yes, of course, Bach's Badenary. And that? Perfectly clear, Mozart's Ein klein Nachtmusik. And after 4 notes, it's crystal clear. Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. How is it possible that even with just a few notes, an incredible variety of new music can be created? It's because of something that is completely underestimated, the complexity of even the simplest musical structures. This misconception explains why some over-routines do not lead to progress. Once you understand how intricately structured even seemingly simple music is, you will also understand why you cannot see the crucial mistakes you make when practicing even seemingly difficult passages. To do this, you need the right mindset. First, think about how many levels interact in a melody. Spontaneously, you might say pitch and rhythm. But that's not all. Pitch has patterns. Are the intervals small or large? Is there a series of identical intervals, or are small and large intervals mixed? Are there pauses or a continuous stream of notes? Even short sequences of notes are options from an incredible variety of possibilities that our brain can easily distinguish. And just a few changes can sometimes result in dramatic differences in expression. The overall picture becomes even more complex when rhythm is taken into account. What is the meter? How long are the notes? How are they distributed between the weak and strong beats of the bar? Our brain can also perceive the finest differences in this respect. But that's not all, because now comes the crucial point. All these levels, pulse, meter, note lengths, pitches, distribution of interval sizes, are by no means synchronous but intertwined, which dramatically multiplies the complexity of the musical whole. What does this mean? The different levels that make up these parameters each have their own structures. When superimposed on each other, they sometimes result in confusing layer patterns. And that's not all, because the technique of the instrument adds even more complexity. Fingerings or the movement of a finger from one place on the instrument to another do not follow the logic of music, but the logic of physiology. Even when playing a simple melody, a variety of layers with asynchronous patterns must be coordinated. The sequence of notes, the rhythmization of this sequence, the phrasing of this rhythmized sequence, the choice of fingers, the spread of the hand, and so on. The decisive factor is how our brain processes these levels. It is largely modular in structure. This means that it consists of specialized regions and neural circuits that control certain cognitive functions or behaviors relatively autonomously. In other words, rhythm is controlled independently of pitch, fingers independently of dynamics, and so on. Individual patterns in all these levels, for example the rhythm, become automated over time and then run partly autonomously, i.e. unconsciously. Now, it may be that when you practice, you concentrate on a single aspect, usually the speed of your fingers. In doing so, you may overlook the fact that your brain is reproducing patterns at other levels based on previously practiced passages that do not correspond to the passage you are currently practicing. This is because areas of your brain function like artificial intelligence systems. they follow the mean. They assume that what has always happened in the past will continue to happen now. And when something unexpected happens in their area, for example rhythm, they stumble. You may overlook this because you are focusing on another level of playing. Then you will keep making the same mistake without figuring out why. A simple example, just the melody of a piano minuet by Joseph Haydn. Above that, the fingering. In the first three notes, the interval sequence in seconds is synchronous with the sequence of fingers. Then there is an asynchronous passage. The melody always repeats the same note while the fingers change. In bar 2, there is another synchronous passage. A broken triad corresponds to the pattern of fingers used. In bar 3, the interval structure, a stepwise descent, and the finger sequence are again asynchronous. One could attempt synchronization by starting with the fifth finger and then placing the fingers according to the interval sequence. However, this causes the thumb to fall on a black key, which is awkward. The choice of fingers therefore does not always follow musical logic, but also the peculiarities of the hand and keyboard. Bar 5 introduces a sequence, and the ear might be tempted to instruct the fingers to simply continue this sequence and then move the fingers and intervals downwards in sync. However, Haydn surprises us with a chromatic approximation from below. This results in an interval anomaly and an asynchronous anomaly in the finger sequence overlapping. These are challenges that even a monophonic melody presents. They are compounded when the accompanying figure is also taken into account. And they are compounded even further when dynamics and articulations are also considered as asynchronous levels. Given this wealth of information, it is not surprising that most of it escapes conscious attention. When it comes to most levels, you rely on practice schemes, but these may be inappropriate in specific cases. Now let's turn to our practice scheme for detecting and eliminating mistakes. What is the point of analyzing mistakes? On the one hand, it is about becoming aware of the processes on one level, such as the sequence of fingers and hand movements when it comes to fingering, or the correct rhythm. But that is not enough. On the other hand, these processes must be consciously coordinated, preferably in pairs, with the asynchronous processes on other levels. The most obvious example is the intertwining of interval sequences, i.e., the melody and the fingerings. However, metrical structure and fingerings can also be compared, or dynamic changes and melody. How does a crescendo fit into the fingerings, for example? You can continue these analyses until you no longer feel any resistance or tension when playing the passage in question. Then you will have such a deep cognitive and physiological understanding of the musical material and the interplay of the various levels that you no longer need to focus on technical details and can play music in a completely organic and, over time, intuitive way. This type of analysis takes some practice, but it is the ideal way to perfect your technique and musicality without jeopardizing your physical and mental health. The entanglement of levels also sheds light on another phenomenon. Why is it so much more difficult to implement instructions on articulation and dynamics? They are often neglected, especially by beginners, but even professionals sometimes take a very relaxed approach to them. This video explains why this is the case. It's worth watching this one too. And above all, it's worth subscribing to our channel. The best is yet to come. And feel free to write in the comments how you proceed when you simply can't get past an allegedly difficult passage technically. Thanks for watching and participating.